Now ahead of Game Week 7, we're going to talk through my team selection and of course my chip strategy for the upcoming game weeks. Now before we dive into today's video, of course if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe as we are hunting down that 20k subscriber mark. Honestly, every video we do get a little bit closer. So like I said, if you do enjoy it, make sure of course you are hitting that subscribe button. Any questions about your team as well, get them in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed the content and you're already an existing subscriber, make sure you're smashing the like button. As you can see, we got a big, juicy game rank, to be honest. We got 2 million increase, taking us to 3.2 million. Over the past 4 weeks, we have managed to kind of claw our way back from where we were a few weeks ago. We were at 7 million. We're slowly starting to work things out. We're at 3.2. I still think it was a very, very successful wildcard and an absolutely needed wildcard, to be honest. I think I gained around 1.2 million in terms of squad value. So definitely worth it for that alone, and will put me in a better position going forward. And my buying power as well. Like, it does add up across the season when you do make moves like this. So I definitely think the wildcard was the correct strategy. Getting Erling Haaland in, of course, looks like the correct move. I'm really happy that we've kind of got the key defenders as well that I think a lot of people are going to be looking to obviously bring in this week. Senesi, Gabriel, the two popular ones that a lot of people are of course going to be looking to invest in with just transfers. I feel we're probably a little bit ahead of the curve and we've already got them in. Arsenal with some good fixtures coming up as well. I do feel like having Gyökeres, or at least an Arsenal attacker in place, is also going to put us in pretty good stead for the next few weeks. Like I said, I was pretty happy with the wildcard. We take 3 free transfers into Game Week 7. Now, I spoke about this in my transfers targets video, and I did say that the plan is probably going to be to roll. However, there are a few things that potentially could change that. João Pedro, of course, is going to be one of them. He's on the bench for Chelsea tonight in the Champions League. Maresca said that he picked up a knock in the game against Brighton. Same with Caicedo. Caicedo's back playing, so that is fine. João Pedro, on the other hand, does, of course, have, on the bench. So we're going to have to wait and see why he is on the bench. Obviously, Maresca's probably going to give us a little bit more kind of detail. Is that injury a little bit more serious? Or is it something that, of course, he can just manage and he'll be available for the weekend? The other concern I have as well is he's going to be off to Japan with Brazil over the international break, and then Chelsea playing the early kickoff for Game Week 8. Not ideal for João Pedro, especially after the comments Maresca made last time, talking about him being, of course, one of those players from South America that he was a little bit worried about and the condition that they came back with. That doesn't bode too well for me, so I do think he could be a player that, of course, does potentially depart the club, and we're going to talk about some potential transfer targets with him. And as well, we're also going to take a look at Chelsea's fixtures because they are really good, and I definitely still probably think worth keeping him for if he is going to be a fine and dandy asset. That was enough waffle about the point scoring. Like I said, overall, it was a great week. Now let's keep going. Let's keep the green arrows coming and dive into my team selection for Game Week 7. Okay, let's start off first then with my defence. I'm really happy with the defence that I've wildcarded into, to be honest. Obviously, Raya and Gabriel, we're going to take a look at the 11FI data in a second, but honestly, the long-term projections here for Arsenal are looking absolutely stupendous. You know what? Let's just dive straight into the 11FI numbers. They are looking so good for Arsenal. Of course, if you want to go and check out 11FI's website and check out this data for yourself, I will leave a link in the description. But as you can see here, there's 3 weeks over the next 6 with above 50% chance of a clean sheet. But Game Week 8, Game Week 9 and Game Week 12, the lowest is 12%. So I think that bodes really, really well for my double up in terms of Arsenal defence. I think, as well, Gabriel, Arsenal are currently leading the way for goals from set pieces. They're also leading the way from expected goals from set pieces in the Premier League. So you feel having one of the best players for that last season is, of course, going to make perfect sense. I definitely think he's going to be a long-term player I want to hold. I think a lot of people as well are, of course, going to be looking to invest into him this week. I would just say, though, there is a Champions League game for Arsenal tomorrow against Olympiacos, or today when this video goes out. Do make sure that, of course, he is fit and available and makes it through that game unscathed. In terms of my other defenders, then, we can see some decent projections coming up for Fulham over the next few weeks. So I think, Anderson was still a great pickup on the wild card. Everton as well. I know Tarkowski didn't hit defensive contributions, and people are going to, of course, be questioning whether or not he's still an important player to buy. Yes, in my opinion. He picked a yellow card up very, very early within the first half, and anybody that's kind of ever played football knows when you're on a yellow card that you kind of do have to just take it a little bit easy. You can't go in kind of rash, guns blazing for those tackles. You've got to just kind of, you know, take it a little bit easy. And what is C-bit made of that, of course, contributes to defensive numbers? Well, it's clearances, blocks, tackles, and interceptions. You can't really do as many of those things when, of course, you are on a yellow card. And in the back of your mind, that, of course, is going to be playing out as well. So I think it was probably just a one-off. There's still some good numbers here for clean sheets. He's still going to be a decent C-bit defender as well. He managed to hit 7 whilst on a yellow card. So I imagine there'll probably be a resumption back to the full 10 this week. Bournemouth as well. Obviously, if you're looking to bring in Senesi, the numbers are looking good. He's an absolute DEFCON beast and is currently 6'4'6" as well. Also got that little bit of set-piece threat as well, which we've already seen from him. And again, Bournemouth are one of the leading sides for expected goals created, from set plays. So definitely something to, of course, monitor over the next few weeks. In terms of transfers that I probably would be looking to make from a defensive perspective, I definitely would be interested in a Newcastle defender. As you can see, some really good numbers coming up. It is just managing their Champions League games and seeing what sort of rotation they do, of course, get out of that. But a 40% chance this week. So if you're on a wildcard or potentially looking at a Newcastle defender or goalkeeper, this is probably their best week out of the lot. Like I said, let's return to my defense then quickly. Like I said, this is how we're going to line up. We're going to bench Anderson. We're going to play Tarkowski. I know Palace have been in immense form and really, really good, but I still do believe that Tarkowski probably has the better fixtures. And when we looked at the clean sheet numbers there, he actually had the better percentage chance of a clean sheet as well. Rodon and Dubravka are also going to be there for our potential bench boost in game week 8 or game week 9 as well. Okay, let's dive into the midfield then, and this is probably how it is, of course, going to line up for this game week. The only player that I could see potentially coming in here is potentially one of Anderson or Caicedo. I probably would go for Anderson, with it being a little bit more difficult fixture for Caicedo this week. However, again, very easily could hit those defensive contribution numbers. I'm pretty happy with the midfield as it stands. I didn't have the most impressive performance and it isn't the best fixture this week. However, I still do believe he's going to be a great long-term hold. He's got multiple routes to points with, of course, open play threat, penalties, and those defensive contributions as well. Reinders is going to be an easy hold as well for the next few weeks. City have got some great fixtures coming up. We'll see that on the 11-5 data if I bring that up in terms of the projected goals, as you can see here. City still for the next 3, 196, 199, and 185. Even in game week 10, a 205 as well. I just think for his price points and the minute security we are seeing for him, he is very easily kind of, you know, that midfield route or that other alternative route outside of Erling Haaland into some great Manchester City fixtures. That is why I think, you know, a lot of people went with him on wildcard and why I'm still pretty positive about him as an overall pick kind of selection. Bournemouth as well, we are seeing their numbers drop slightly, but I think just the way that Semenyo has started this season, and again, his multiple avenues to points, just feels like a player that I am going to even keep probably for those more difficult fixtures and just give him the benefit of the doubt. Unless, you know, we see some big drop-offs in terms of his numbers and we start to see him potentially blanking and not hitting defensive contributions, then that'll probably be the period where I do, of course, look to switch off from him. Now, a lot of people are going to ask me about Bruno Fernandes and what my plan is for him. If he remains on penalties, he is going to stay within the side. Again, the guy has the multiple routes to points. He has the penalties. He has some corner share. He has open play threat and can hit defensive contributions. It was kind of just one of those games where everything went wrong for him as an asset. Missed the penalty, obviously got a yellow card. United lose their clean sheet, so doesn't pick a point up there, and is one defensive contribution away from hitting his extra 2 bonus points anyway from that metric. I still think he's going to be a great player, and selling someone against Sunderland, how good they've been still, I just don't think it's the right move to make. As you can see here, the projected goals are really backing Manchester United with 2.10. I'm not going to sell a player like that. The only thing that might happen in the next few weeks is if United get another penalty and Brian Mbeumo takes it, he is going to be the one. He is going to be the one. His open play numbers have looked exceptionally good, and if he is the penalty taker, that completely makes Bruno Fernandes a pointless pick in my personal opinion. And I could see a lot of managers who have Bruno switching away from him and going to Bryan Mbeumo. That is probably going to be the thing that a lot of people are going to be doing this game week. Now, what I want to say about United and why people are asking me why I invested in Bruno Fernandes, well, obviously, once you get past the game week 8 fixture, it is just a really good run all the way up until game week 22. He could just be one of those picks, and I do think Almiron is probably going to get sacked at some point. That could affect a new manager bounce, could be back in the 10, could be an absolute beast, and could, like I said, just be picking up points. And people might argue that, yes, picking up 3 penalties within the opening 6 game weeks is lucky, and he's not going to be able to do that, and he's a pen merchant and all this and that under the sun. But you have to ask yourself, why are United winning so many penalties? Well, if you look at the attackers they've got, they are very, very good at doing that for the Manchester United side. Bryan Mbeumo is a case point in that kind of, you saw it at the weekend. He just is a flat track bully, and really difficult to, of course, track runs and just manage as an overall player as well. So they are going to still continue to pick up penalties, probably not at the rate that we've seen already, but I think that is worth kind of entering into the conversation that United are not just picking up penalties for the fun of it. There must be a reason behind it, and it is because of the attacking talent that they have acquired this summer. Like I said with Bruno, it is all going to be dependent on whether or not he remains the penalty taker. If he doesn't, then of course he is going to be looking for a way out of my side, and we might be making that move over to Bryan Mbeumo. Okay, let's complete our lineup then and take a look at my 3 forwards for now. We've got Gyökeres, João Pedro and Erling Haaland. Let's start off first with Erling Haaland and why I've given him the armband for this week. Let's bring up the predicted points from the 11-5 model. As you can see, he is top of that. Sorry, not the 11-5 model, the Fantasy Football Hub model. He is top of that for this week in terms of predicted points. Looking across a lot of the other point scoring metrics as well, he is also top for a lot of those. I feel if Bruno Fernandes doesn't miss that penalty, a lot more people maybe are going to convert to him, and we can have a similar situation to what we saw with Burnley where he managed to pick up his 10-pointer. But I just think the form that Erling Haaland is in right now, there is no reason to go against him as a captaincy pick. He just seems like the absolute lock for me that I would want within my side, and definitely going to be just an easy captaincy pick in my personal opinion for this week. Brentford have been very, very hit and miss so far this season, and obviously Haaland's numbers just speak for themselves. He's absolutely blowing everybody out of the way in terms of goals and in terms of those expected goals as well, and everything Manchester City do seems to come through Erling Haaland. When they're looking for the goals or when they're looking for the balls in the box, he is the main man they're focusing on. He is their main target and is going to have a very, very good season, and I think, for the next few weeks, probably a very easy captaincy decision that a lot of people won't really have to think about, to be honest. And I think this week, don't overthink it. Haaland's probably the most sensible play given his form right now. Obviously, I've alluded to João Pedro being benched, and I want to talk about my potential replacement that I would go for if I were to obviously deselect him from this side. Now, the problem is the forward that I want doesn't have the best fixture this week. It is going to be Jarrod Bowen. Off the back of his goal on Monday night, there was something I noticed with him. He is a BPS magnet. He is potentially, and I'm going to put this out there, this year's Cunha, right? If you look at baseline BPS, he is currently leading the way because he's not a traditional forward, is he? Especially what we saw in the game against Everton. He was playing out wide, so he's doing kind of, the other creative things that are going to just boost him up on that baseline. And what that usually means is when he gets a goal, which is 24 points on the bonus points metric, it instantly shoots him to the top. Exactly what we saw yesterday. And in every single game that he has managed to score the 1 goal, he's come away with all 3 bonus points in it. I'm genuinely not making it up. You can go and look at the baseline BPS as well. He is top of that for now. The ideal hop-on point I do feel for him is probably going to be game week 8. I think that is a really good investable period. Their most difficult fixture there is probably going to either be Bournemouth or Newcastle, but surrounding that with Leeds and Burnley definitely feels like an investable forward to me. Currently coming in the game at 6.3% as well. He could be a real big super differential. João Pedro for me, I wasn't 100% convinced on him, and you saw that in the deadline stream. I was umming and ahhing whether or not to go for a Richarlison. I just wasn't sure who my forward pick was going to be because João Pedro I know has had these niggles. Of course, as well, there's the issue potentially of him going off to Japan with Brazil, coming back late, early kickoff, so might miss out on one of the good fixtures in game week 8. But it is those fixtures, and it is the fact that if Palmer's going to be out a long term, and if Delap's out, then of course I do want a slice of that Chelsea coverage, and he does give that. But his recent form is suggesting that he's just not quite at the races, and hasn't managed to get a shot off in 3 games. Meanwhile, Bowen here is, like I said, just hitting those BPS, the baseline BPS. So if he's going to score, which is very, very likely for Jarrod Bowen, because he is the talisman of that West Ham United side, then he's going to come away with a goal and 3 bonus. So we could be looking at what we had with Cunha last year, where it's just 8, 9 and 10 pointers very, very consistently across the course of the season. Now, you might be seeing his underlying data here and be a little bit worried. Bowen is not great for data. I'm just going to put that out there. Bowen is terrible for underlying data, but what you get with him is he's just a natural finisher, very similar to what we see with Salah and Son previously within the Premier League. Doesn't really require the data. He still just ticks along very, very nicely and completely throws the kind of expected goals models out of the window. I really like Jarrod Bowen as a pick. If you've been around the channel for a long time, you know I always end up with him in my team at some point this season. I didn't think it was going to happen this year with him being reclassified as a forward. However, doing some more research, seeing where his baseline BPS is at and currently leading the way for it, he definitely feels like a player I want to invest in. Probably in game week 8. However, game week 7 could be the period where we do go if we get negative news around João Pedro. Let's head back to the side then and talk about our final forward. It is going to be Gyökeres for this week. And like I said, the Arsenal fixture's coming up. I just really want a slice of that pie. We saw in the last section with the 11-5 numbers, Arsenal currently leading the way in terms of those projected numbers. The fixtures are just looking great. And if I can get a guy that's got very, very secure minutes on penalties for a decent attacking unit, then sign me up. I want a slice of that pie. People, of course, have argued that he doesn't turn up in the bigger games, and I think that is probably a fair comparison, seeing what we've obviously kind of got from him in the early parts of the season. However, against these lesser opponents, I am hoping for more of kind of the Leeds United-esque performance where he managed to bag himself a 12-pointer. That is how the team is lined up for this week then. Let's head over to Fantasy Football Hub and see when I might potentially play my bench boost chip. Okay, let's take a look then in Fantasy Football Hub where we potentially could play our bench boost chip. Of course, if you want to go and check out their website, there will be a link in the description to that one. We very easily could play it this week. If we think João Pedro and Caicedo are going to be completely fine for this weekend, I don't mind it. Like, Bournemouth away, not a great fixture. Liverpool, again, not an ideal fixture. Dubravka with Villa, Tottenham, Rodon. At least everybody is playing, though, and it gets the chip out of the way. I'm aiming just for 10 points with this chip. If we get any more than that, we are on to a bonus. However, I don't think it is going to be worth it because game week 8, as you can see here, the team is looking fairly decent. We've got Tarkowski and Dye away to City, but we do have 4 free transfers to potentially deal with that. We've also got Anderson away to Arsenal. Again, not ideal. But our cheaper boys, Rodon and Dubravka, obviously do face off against each other, so that could be an avenue for some points. But the window that I'm really liking is game week 9. As you can see, this team is ridiculously stacked. My Everton players have got Tottenham, so that's not too bad. João Pedro has Sunderland. Of course, that means Caicedo has Sunderland. Dubravka takes on Wolves, and Leeds take on West Ham, with Anderson having Newcastle. So overall, game week 9 for me and my side does feel like the correct play. However, I do just really want to get rid of this chip. It means then that I can downgrade some of my other positions. We've not got to worry about the bench too much, and then can, of course, look to build some more transfers going forward to, of course, kind of, you know, catch up with wildcarders in 8 or in game week 13. That is going to complete my team selection for today. Of course, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you're liking, commenting, and subscribing. Like I said, we're on that road to 20k. We're getting extremely close to doing so, so it'd be absolutely amazing if we could do that. And thanks for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 7.